Okay, here's the second episode. So I'm just going to show you my process for tracing over some of these different designs here. So you can see how I do it. Again, there's no one way to do all these things. So as you do them more and more, you'll figure out which works best for you, which works best for certain designs. And so hopefully the more you do, it'll just be easier to kind of use those different things to help you execute these. So we're going to change these from rough sketches into finished, nice looking digital vector versions. And again, so I use my layers a lot, so make sure your layers is here. If for some reason your layers is not over here, go to Window, Layers, and that will pop it out. And remember, all these little panels can be pulled out or put in here or rearranged if need be. But you'll start to figure out which one of these you use most often. So my layers are good. So I have my sketches on its own template layer. And then I have a new layer where I'm going to start working on the mountain logo. So as I work on these, I'll probably put each one of these on their own logo. Some might need more than one layer as well. So remember, to zoom in and out is Control plus or Control minus, or Command plus and Command minus on Mac. And then to navigate the screen like this, you just hold spacebar and it switches your mouse icon to a little hand, and you can click and drag this wherever it needs to go. All right, so we're going to start with this. This is might be the easiest one. But again, I'm going to work background to foreground, big shapes to small shapes. So the background is the sky. So I'm going to create that first. And I'm just going to do this with my pen tool here. So really make sure you're used to your pen tool. We're going to use it a lot. And it's the best way to come up with these, to create these, any sort of shape that you had. All right, so this is going to be my background. Let's change this to kind of a yellowish. So after I created this shape with my pen tool, I just clicked. I'll just delete that and do it again. So I'm just clicking in different places. I'm going to do a clipping mask at the end. So this all will fit inside a nice circle at the end. So I don't have to worry about fitting inside the circle right now. So with this pen tool, I'm just clicking to make anchor points. And then to close the shape, I go back to that anchor point I started on. And I click there. Okay. So now I want to make this sort of a yellowish color. So in order to change the color of the fill, so remember we have our fill here and our stroke. Right now this has no stroke on it, which is good. I'll just put a stroke on it. So I want the fill to be kind of a yellowish color. And to turn off the stroke, usually I will work just in shape. So I can turn off the stroke by clicking on the stroke and then clicking this none down here. Okay. You can also access and change the color of stroke and fills up here as well. Alright, so now what's nice, since I made this a template layer, okay, for sketches down here, I can hit Command Y, and that will make all of my shapes transparent and allows me to trace over those shapes easier. So I see just a wireframe view of those shapes. Okay, so that should be pretty easy, so I use that Command Y. So now we got a circle for that sun shape, so I'm just going to use my ellipse tool. Remember, to make it a perfect circle, just hold Shift and it locks those proportions as a circle. So as I drew it, it's now the same color as my background. So it can be kind of tricky to find if you lose it there. Remember, you can expand this, and I can select this ellipse shape by clicking on this little circle right here. I just want this to be a lighter yellow. There we go. So remember, if you want it to be a perfect circle, hold Shift as you resize it. Now is that the right size about? Yep. Alright, so now I'll do my pen tool and do a few shapes for these clouds. So switching to my pen tool again. This one should be easy. Alright, so I'm just going to change this color right now to kind of a light pink. There we go. Now do this next cloud. Again, I'm creating solid finished shapes for these. There's one more. Yep. And since I know I'm going to put the mountains on top of these shapes, I can just go right behind, or in this case over the top of the mountains in the sketch, and then the mountains will be will cover up those sections of the cloud. Okay. So now I'm going to switch back to my pen tool. So it's nice to remember pen tool can do straights and curves. So I did all these shapes kind of with curves with the pen tool. And now these ones for straights, this should be pretty straightforward here. And again, remember things will always change a little bit as you're creating the digital version. So as you're working on these, feel free to change anything you want. You don't have to stick to my design exactly. Switch around colors. You can put strokes on there or not if you want. Okay, let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. Maybe we want a stroke around here. Let's put a nice, Let's put a nice, so I'm going to make sure this is selected. So remember, anytime you want to change the characteristics of a shape, whether it's stroke, fill, size, you have to select it. So I'm switching to my selection tool here, or the letter V, select this shape. Now let's put a color on that stroke there. That looks kind of cool. Maybe a little thicker. Yeah, that looks kind of nice. Okay. And I'll do a few little shapes here just for kind of some lighter section of the mountain as well. So hopefully you did some sort of process like this in Art 109 and some of the other art classes as well. I know if you were in my Art 109, we did a lot of this. I'm going to select all these, see what looks best. I'm going to turn that off. Let's make this a lighter blue. This looks pretty good. I want to line this up so it's a little stylized, kind of inside of that stroke a little bit. Trying to rotate it to get the mouse right over that corner there. There we go. Okay, so now we pretty much have all the shapes made there. Let's look at it. All right, so now we need to put this in a nice clipping mask, and so it fits inside that circle. So I'm just going to switch to my ellipse tool here, draw a big circle, hold shift. So remember, hopefully you guys have done clipping masks before, but if you need a reminder, you can clip to any sort of shape. But whatever shape you clip to has to be on the very top. Let's see how this looks. I'm going to resize this just a little bit. Again, I want to hold shift just to keep it a perfect square, or a perfect circle. There we go. So my circle is on top, so everything's going to fit inside of that circle. So in order to clip it to that circle, I'm going to select everything. So I just do that by switching to my selection tool and drawing a box around everything. And then right click and say make clipping mask. Make clipping mask. And everything should fit inside of that circle. There we go. Cool. That looks pretty good there. But if you note, there's no stroke around it, so I will need to do one more circle. Let's see how to do this actually. Let's put a nice dark blue, so it's kind of related to the blue in the mountains. And then I'm just going to fit this on here so this lines up exactly like one notch thicker. There we go. And it kind of locks itself so it fits right on. There we go. So now we have our nice mountain kind of logo badge there. Okay, so we have that one done. So I could copy and paste this entire thing to a new document and do what I will with that. So next videos I'll go over a few more of these, but that's creating that mountain logo using the pen tool. So check out the next videos. Try and do as many of these on your own as you can. That's going to be the best way to learn for you. The best way to practice it is just by doing it on your own. Then kind of come back and see how I did some of these other ones to kind of get some tips and ideas and the best ways to work on this. Again, there's not one way to do this. This is the process that works best for me, and you can use some of the things I do. You might find some slightly new ways to do it as well, or slightly different ways to do it, but any of those should work good.